Hello there, Mark Cunningham here, and in this video we're going to go through a full example of a project that can be set up and managed in Xero Projects. We're going to use the knowledge we've gained through the rest of the videos in this series, so if you haven't seen those videos yet, check out the link to the playlist in the description below. So our project is going to include inputs such as labor costs and inventory products, and it will also include non-inventory products that we don't put into our inventory and track. We're also going to utilize the products and services section of Xero to try and save ourselves a bit of time. Then we're going to send the client a quote after we've set up the project, and once they've accepted the quote, we'll send them a deposit invoice. We're also going to send them a tasks and expenses invoice before we've finished, so just for a progress payment along the way. And then at the end, we'll send them a final tasks and expenses invoice. And then once all that's done, we'll close the project. So let's jump into Xero now and get our bigger project underway. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is actually just reset the demo company. So we'll just go into My Xero and we'll click on Reset. Okay, so now we have a fresh version of the demo company to use. I'll just close that other window. So we'll go into Projects and we'll just click on Get Started. All right, so we'll just set a few things up first for our project. The first thing we'll do is we'll have a look at the staff cost rate. So we'll just set that to $50 an hour. Okay, so now we'll go back into Projects and we will set up our new project. So we'll just go ahead and make it in progress. All right, so you can pick any contact, but I'm going to pick the Bayside Club. And what we're going to do is build them a fence. So we'll just type in build fence for the project name there. And then we'll pick a deadline date just a couple of weeks into the future. And we're going to do an estimate and we're going to calculate it from the tasks and expenses. So we'll just tick on that and hit create. Okay, so now we've got our project open. So to build this fence, we're actually going to be using some inventory. So we'll go into products and services and we'll set up our inventory items. So we're going to set up the first one, which is going to be fence posts. And we'll just call that F post and just give it the name fence post. So this is something that we're going to purchase and we're going to sell and we're going to track. So just tick on that checkbox down the bottom. Now the unit price that we buy it for is going to be $20. We'll put it to the cost of goods sold and we're going to sell them for $30 each and just put it to sales. All right, so just make sure that down here you've got the inventory asset account as well. Click on save. Okay, so now we've got our fence posts in there. So the next one is going to be the fence rails. Okay, so we'll just call that fence rail. I've just used the code F-rail. Once again, we're going to buy it and sell it and track it. So these ones we'll buy for $10 each. And we'll sell them for $15 each. Okay, and once again, just make sure that's inventory down the bottom there. Okay, and then finally, we're going to do our fence palings. Okay, and those ones again, they'll be tracked. So they cost $2 each. And we'll sell them for $3 each. Okay, so we'll just click on save. All right, so now we've got our fence palings, posts, and rails. You can see there that we don't have a quantity yet, so we're going to have to buy some in. So we'll go to bills. All right, so we'll just create a new bill. Okay, so you can just pick any supplier. I'm just going to pick this Dimples Warehouse, and we'll just put a due date on it there of tomorrow. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to pick those stock items. So the first one we will do is we'll get some fence posts. Okay, and we'll buy 200 of them. So next up, we'll get the fence rails, and we'll buy 500 of those. And then finally, we'll get the fence palings, and we'll buy 1,000 of those. Okay, so there we go. That's all good. We'll just click on approve. Okay, we'll just head back to products and services. And you can see there that we've got those quantities in our inventory now, so we can use those in our project. Okay, so we'll go back to our project and into our build fence project. All right, so what we need to do now is start adding our tasks and estimated expenses. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is add a task, and it's going to be called dig fence post holes, like so. And we'll estimate that it will take 6 hours, and our hourly rate is going to be $100 per hour that we're going to charge the customer. Okay, so in order to do that, we also need to put in a few expenses. So the first estimated expense is going to be to hire a digger to dig the holes, and that's going to be for $500. And we're going to mark it up at 20%, so we'll end up charging the client $600. So just as a side note here, bear in mind that that 20% is actually just a markup on the unit price of 500. It's not actually the same as gross margin. If you do want a 20% gross margin, you'll have to calculate the markup yourself because there's no gross margin option there in the drop-down menu. Okay, we're done here now, so we can click on save. Okay, and of course we also need our fence posts. So we can go estimated expense. Okay, now up here, we can choose the inventory items that we set up before. So we've got F post, and we want to bring in 20 of them, or we want to estimate 20 of them for this job. And you can see there it's got the buy price and the sell price just like we set it up. So we'll just use those prices. We won't change anything. And we'll click on save. And then we also need some cement bags. Now the cement bags are not something that we're going to keep in stock. We're just going to buy them as we need them. So we'll put in an estimated expense and we'll call it cement bags. Okay, so we're going to estimate that we need 50 of them. They cost $8 each, and we're going to sell them to the customer for $10 each. So we'll click on save. Okay, so that's everything we need for our fence posts. So next up, we want to do our fence rails. So we'll do a task, and we'll call it attach fence rails. Okay, so we're going to estimate 4 hours there at $100 an hour. And for that one, we're also going to need to add an estimated expense. And again, we'll just go to our inventory, and this one is going to be the rails. And we're going to say that we need 60 of them. Those ones we buy in at $10 and we sell at $15 each. So we'll click on save. Okay, so that's all we need for our rails. And then lastly, we need to do a couple of things for our fence palings. So we'll just do a task, attach fence palings. And that's also going to be an estimate of 4 hours at $100 an hour. So we'll click on save. And we need to bring in the estimated expense. We'll bring in the palings. And we're going to estimate that we need 500 of them. So they're $2 each to buy. We're going to sell them for $3 each. So that's save. And I've just realized that I actually forgot to put one in, and that's to actually install the fence posts. So we'll just go task, install fence posts, and that's going to be an 8-hour job. Once again at $100 an hour. Click on save. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so once we're sure that we've got everything in, which we do have now that I've put in that item that we forgot, we can go ahead and send a quote to the client. So what we'll do is we'll go tasks and estimated expenses, and we're going to send them a quote for everything based on the tasks and expenses, but we're going to just group those tasks. So we'll combine the tasks, but we'll list the individual expenses because we don't really want them to see a breakdown of the actual labor in there, but we do want them to see a breakdown of the expenses. So we'll just use the project name as well. That's why I checked that. All right, so we'll just open the quote. Okay, so we'll just put a expiry date there on the quote, just of the next day. And everything looks fine here. So you can see that they've combined the labor there, but instead of saying project tasks, I actually just want to click into it and just call it labor. I just think that's a better description. And then we've got all those other expenses down there listed separately, which is what we want the client to see. Okay, so we just put the GL codes in there for those lines that didn't have them. So now we've got a full quote. And what we'll do is we'll just pretend that we've sent it to the client and they've accepted it. So we'll just mark it as sent. And then we'll just mark it as accepted. Okay, so we'll go back to the project. Okay, so now we have a quote in there that's been accepted. So now we can go and start putting in our tasks and expenses. But before we do that, we're going to send an invoice to the client for a 10% deposit. So let's just go to invoice and deposit. And we'll just put in 10% there for our percentage and click on open. Okay, so now we have a deposit invoice there for the Bayside Club build fence job. So we'll just put a due date on it, and we'll just put an account in there as well and click on approve. Okay, so now we have that invoice in there. We'll go back to our project, and there we go. You can see there we've got $630 excluding tax that's been invoiced. If we have a look over here, you can see that invoice right there, awaiting payment. All right, so now we can get started on the job. So we can start booking some time to it and also putting the actual expenses in. So let's get started on that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to dig the fence post holes. So we'll just add some time there. And let's just say we got that one right. It was 6 hours. So we'll click on save. Okay, so that's that done. The other thing we need to do is we need to hire the digger. So we'll just go up to add expense and we'll call it hire digger. Okay, and we will choose the estimate there for hire digger. Okay, so that ends up being $500. We got that one right as well. We're going to mark it up at 20% and charge the client $600. Okay, so we also need to use some fence posts. So if we go to add and expense, and we'll put in our fence post code on there. So we'll track it to the fence post estimated expense. So the quantity that we estimated was 20. So we'll just put that in as 20. We'll say we got that one right too. So that's in there now. Okay, so now we've got the fence post holes labor in there. We've got the digger hire and we've got the actual fence posts themselves. The last thing that we want to do is the cement bags. So we'll just put that one in as well. And what we're going to do for that one is we'll go to business and bills, create a new bill. And again, we'll do the Dimples warehouse. Just put in a due date. And then we're not getting this one out of our inventory. We're just buying it straight from the warehouse and then using them. So we'll just put cement bags in there. And for this one, we're doing 55 units and they're $8 each. And I'll just put that one to purchases. And then over here, we'll just assign it to a customer or a project. Okay, so we need to get our build fence project there. Tick on the cement bags and click on assign, and then OK. Okay, so now we can approve it. And we'll go back to the project and down into our build fence project. And we'll just scroll down. Okay, and there we are with our untracked expenses there of our cement bags. So what we can do from here is we can track it to an estimate. So if we track it to cement bags and click save, then there it is up there. Okay, so we've almost got everything done for our fence posts. The last thing we need to do is the labor for it, just here. So we will just add some time in there. And let's just say we did this a little bit more quickly than what we expected. So we did it in 7 hours. I'll click on save. And now we should have everything that we need for the fence post part of our job. So we've got the labor to dig the fence post. We've got the labor to install the fence posts. We've got the digger hire, the actual fence posts themselves, and the bags of cement. So at this point, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and actually send an invoice to the client. So we'll just go and do tasks and expenses. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll display the hours as tasks, and we'll display the expenses as individual. And we just need to make sure we actually credit them for the deposit on here, so we don't include the deposit amount as well, or we give them a credit for it anyway. Okay, so we've got all that included there. We'll just click on open. Okay, so there we are. So we'll just finish this off. We'll put a due date on it, and we'll just put that sales general ledger code in here for each of these lines. Okay, just like that. And the other thing that I want to do is I just want to make sure we charge them properly for the cement bag. So that's come through as $8 a unit. That's what we bought it for. We wanted to actually sell it at $10 a unit. So I'll just change that. Like so. And then we will go ahead and approve it. And we'll head back to our project. Okay, so now we've invoiced $3,050, and on the profitability report, that should be showing a bit of profit now because we've actually invoiced quite a bit compared to what it's cost us. So we've got a bit of profit in there now. All right, so back over on tasks and expenses. Now we can do the fence rails. So we'll do the labor for attaching the fence rails. And we'll just say that we did that one in just 2 hours. And we'll put a date down there of 1st of March. And we also need to bring in our fence rails from our inventory. So we'll go to expense. And we want to go and find the rails. Track it to the fence rail estimate there. And the quantity is going to be 60, which is what we estimated. And we'll click on save. And then finally we'll do the attachment of the fence palings. So we'll go in there and add some time. We'll do that one as 5 hours. And we'll do it on the same date. So that's the 1st of March. Okay, and then we'll bring in some fence palings from our inventory. So we'll go expense. Find the item. Track it to the fence paling estimate. We'll say we actually used 550. And save. Okay, so now the job is complete. Okay, so we'll just send them another invoice. You can see there where we used the additional fence palings. It's actually giving us a little warning there saying they were $150 over the estimate. That's fine. So we'll just go tasks and expenses. Okay, so we've got all the uninvoiced time in there as well. That's all good. We don't have the quote to take off anymore, so that's fine. We'll just click on save. Okay, and here we are now with our third invoice for this job. So we'll just put a date on it there. Invoiced on the 1st of March, due on the 2nd of March. Again, I'll just put those general ledger codes in like that. So that all looks pretty good. We'll just approve it. Okay, so we can send that one to the client. So we'll go back to the project. All right, so now we can see that we've actually invoiced 6,300 against our estimate of 6,300. So that came out pretty well. And if we go and have a look at our profitability report, it shows a nice healthy profit there of 2,260. So we've invoiced the 6,300 and it cost us just over $4,000 to actually do the job in our labor and our inputs such as cement and the fence palings, etc. And then we've ended up making $2,260 profit. Okay, so before we finish, we'll just go ahead and close the project. So we'll go back to all projects and we'll click on close there for the status. Okay, so that one's moved into the close tab, and we'll also just have a look at our products and services. And here we can see that that quantity has reduced. So remember, we had bought 1,000 fence palings, for example, and then we used 550 of them. So there's only 450 left. And likewise, there's fewer fence posts and railings because we used some of them on that job. Okay, so that's it for our bigger and more complicated example of how to run a project in Xero.